Okay, so welcome to another video. I am unfortunately not here today, and so we're doing a video because a few of you will not be in class on Thursday, and so I wanted to make sure that everybody had the lesson. I won't be here either, so you can watch this at home or watch this in class. But you need to watch it at some point, and there's going to be another video tomorrow. So there are two videos that you will be watching, one today, one tomorrow. Period 6, you guys did the lab yesterday, which is actually today. You can kind of recall what you saw in the lab and relate it back to the different types of rocks that we're going to be covering. I made sure that this video does work so that it doesn't do what happened the last video with the rock cycle where you couldn't see the Prezi at all. So this is the rock cycle. Just a quick overview. You have igneous rocks, then you have certain processes that transform that igneous rock into sedimentary, and then that can also be transformed into metamorphic, and you can kind of go any way here. So if you follow along with the arrows, you can see the different ways a rock can form, the alternate ways. This circular pattern here is kind of just like the go-to way, but there are different ways that you can get from igneous to metamorphic rock. So there are alternate paths, and I keep repeating that because you will have a question on the worksheet that you're doing after this video that has to do with an alternate path. And any of these arrows, if you follow them, you can kind of make your own little alternate path. Okay, so you can go from igneous rock to metamorphic. You can go from igneous rock back to magma. You can go from metamorphic rock to sediment and then sedimentary. Okay, so there's different ways. I would say look at this slide in particular when you're answering that question. And also, of course, you can pause it whenever you want. I encourage you to pause it to take notes. Alright, so moving on to new material today, we're talking about igneous rocks. And so you have two worksheets that you're going to be doing today, and actually 3 that you'll be doing today and tomorrow. So these videos will help you answering those questions. So igneous rocks. Before we talk about igneous rocks, again reviewing what the difference between magma and lava. Magma is found on the inside of the earth, lava is found on the outside. And you'll need to know that later. Okay, so there's 3 ways that we can classify igneous rocks. And so we can look at composition, where they form, and then the texture. So let's go back to composition. What materials make up the igneous rock? So you can have a granite composition, and now that you know all about minerals, you should know what I mean by silicate minerals. And if you need to review that, you can always go back. It's going to be in chapter 2, all about silicate minerals. But a granite composition would mean that there are mostly light-colored silicate minerals like feldspar and quartz, and about 10% of dark silicate minerals such as mica. So that's one type of igneous rock. Basaltic composition is made up mostly of dark silicate minerals such as magnesium and iron. Andesitic composition is kind of the in-between basaltic and granite, and it contains 25% dark silicate minerals. And ultramafic is made up entirely of dark silicate minerals. So there's 4 different types of composition an igneous rock can have, and you can classify those based on how many silicate minerals that are light and how many that are dark, and if it's mostly light or mostly dark or entirely dark minerals, dark silicate minerals, that is. Another way we can look at it, and this is why it's important to know the difference between magma and lava, is that there are 2 different types of igneous rocks when we look at how they are formed. We have intrusive igneous rocks, which means that the igneous rocks were able to cool slowly inside of the earth because they are formed from magma. And remember, magma is on the interior, so interior intrusive. Then we can have extrusive igneous rocks, and that means that they cooled quickly on the surface of the earth. Lava is found on the exterior, right? So extrusive, exterior. And the difference, you can see the differences in the crystals. So intrusive igneous rocks tend to grow larger crystals, whereas extrusive igneous rock tends to grow smaller or no crystals and even air holes. So it depends on how long it takes for the molten rock, whether it's lava or magma, to cool. And if you're within the interior of the earth, it's a lot hotter there. So it's going to cool slowly because you don't have that difference between the super hot, right, molten rock, and a lot cooler like you would with extrusive. Here, if you look at my little drawing here that I didn't make. So if we look at the magma chamber, so we know that igneous rock is formed from magma or lava. Igneous means fire. So sometimes the igneous rocks will cool down here within the earth, and other times they'll cool on the outside. So here we'll have extrusive igneous, and here we'll have intrusive igneous rocks. And so the difference is that the intrusive igneous rocks takes a lot longer to cool because it's relatively hot. It's kind of like if you take something, or let's say you're baking a cake. When the cake is done, in order to not overcook it, you're going to take it out of the oven, right? So leaving it in the oven, even though you've turned the oven off, it will take a lot longer to cool. So here, the intrusive igneous rocks, the igneous rocks are still in the oven, whereas here, extrusive, they're out of the oven and they cool a lot quicker. So again, you can pause and go back. I know that can be a little tough to understand sometimes. The last way we can classify, actually, yes, the last way, sorry. The last way we can classify igneous rocks are the texture. So sometimes we'll have coarse grained texture, fine grained, glassy, or porphyritic. And so the first type, if you have coarse grained texture, that means that you have very large crystals, and you can actually see them. So this means that magma cooled very slowly, and this means that the igneous rocks cooled within the oven, in the inside of the earth. They are intrusive. So intrusive igneous rocks have a coarse grained texture. Extrusive igneous rocks have a fine grained texture. So the more extrusive an igneous rock is, so the closer to the Earth's surface, or directly on the Earth's surface, the finer the grain texture will be. So this means that the crystals are smaller because they didn't have as much time to form. They cooled on the outside of the oven, so they cooled really fast and didn't have time to form crystals. Crystals take time to form. So if the igneous rocks are cooling slowly, intrusive, they're going to have larger crystals because they have a lot longer to form. Now, what happens when a rock is completely extrusive? It just gets shot out from, within, well, actually, I'm not jumping ahead of myself, never mind. So if the extrusive igneous rock cools and has no time to grow crystals, then you'll have a glassy texture, no crystals at all. And then last but not least, we have porphyritic. Magma deep within the earth has very large crystals surrounded by small, fine-grained minerals. So it's kind of in between. And then here we have some different types. So porphyritic is the in-between, and you can see that it's got some larger crystals that you can see, but not so much. And then you have glassy, okay, so vesicular, okay, and sedimentary rocks. That's the video I'm making next. So now you can stop this video, go back, take notes. You are going to be filling in this worksheet first. Okay, section 3.1, the rock cycle. And this is that question I was talking to you about, where it asks about an alternate path, so make sure you go back and look at that. And this is also going to be in section 3.1 of your textbooks. So at this point you can go grab your textbook and fill that in. After you do that worksheet, you're going to be doing this one, which your sub will pass out to you as well. And so you're going to go through and tell me what the difference between intrusive and extrusive igneous rocks are. You're going to give me a couple of matching vocabulary terms. You're going to compare and contrast. I hope this isn't backwards. It might be. And then classifying the different types of igneous rocks. And then you are done for the day. I would suggest, if you want to take it a step further, to also write down the vocabulary into a Quizlet. That'll be a good thing to do as well. Alright, see you guys tomorrow with the second video.